Welcome back to the deep dive. Ever get that feeling, when life sends out an invitation, but you're kind of left wondering, okay, what's the real dress code here? How am I actually supposed to show up?
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful message from Pastor Florin over at Agape Community Church. He was digging into Matthew 22, verses 1 to 14, the parable of the wedding banquet. It feels like this ancient story, right? But man, it is packed with insights for figuring out all the invitations life and, faith throws our way.
It really is, yeah. Such a rich text. And our mission today really is to pull out the practical wisdom from this old story. We want to find those things that really connect with our lives now, especially around this idea Pastor Florin talked about, the apprenticeship of following Jesus. Because it's more than just hearing the sermon, isn't it? It's about what we learn to actually do.
Totally. Pastor Florence started by painting this really vivid picture. He had us imagine a young guy ministering to the homeless, and then bam, this contrast with the king throwing this huge, lavish wedding feast for his son. What really jumped out at me was just the scale of the king's generosity, inviting like all sorts of people, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It almost sounds, well, too good to be true.
It's pretty stunning, isn't it? The sermon really hammered home that the king wasn't doing it on the cheap. This was top shelf stuff, no expense spared. And think about his patience, too, sending out invitation after invitation to those first guests he wanted there. He really, really wanted them to come. It's such an open-hearted invite to just pure joy.
But then, yeah, the story takes this really jarring turn. These first people invited, the ones you think would be thrilled, they just refuse. And not just refuse, they paid no attention. Like there was nothing, just went off to their fields, their businesses. And then even worse, some actually grabbed the king's servants, beat them up, even killed them. I mean, wow, what does that reaction even tell us?
Well, it definitely highlights a kind of deep resistance, doesn't it? Maybe resistance to that level of generosity or just getting pulled away from our own stuff. The sermon mentioned the king was enraged, understandably, and there are serious consequences for those who were violent. But what's maybe even more astonishing is what he does next. He doesn't cancel the party. No, he tells his servants, okay, forget them. Go out to the street corners, invite anyone you find. And boom, the hall is suddenly filled with guests, all kinds, the bad as well as the good. That radical inclusivity, that's just central.
It really is striking. No one was too good to be invited. No one was too bad to be invited. That just blows all the usual social lines out of the water. And Pastor Florin pointed out the king had everything ready. It wasn't like, oh, show up and we'll figure it out. No, everything was prepared. He was just eager for people to come.
Yeah, it's this profound reset, going from this like exclusive VIP list to literally anyone wandering by. It shows this incredible universal openness from the start.
Right.
But it also kind of sets up the next big question, doesn't it? If everyone's invited, what does it actually mean to like belong there?
Right. So, okay, the hall's full, music's playing, food's out, everyone's having a great time. But then the king walks in to greet everybody, and he spots this one guy not wearing wedding clothes. And the sermon really highlighted this detail. The man was speechless. Now, for us today, that might seem, I don't know, a bit petty. After all that generosity, you're worried about his outfit. Why is this such a big deal?
Okay. This is where, like you said, understanding the culture is just crucial. Pastor Florin made it really clear this isn't about, modern fashion sense or whether the guy forgot his tie. Back then, for a royal wedding especially, the host, the king, would have provided the right clothes for the guests. Think of it like getting a uniform or required gear. So the guy wasn't too poor to afford it. And he wasn't clueless about the custom. His silence, the sermon suggested, wasn't confusion. It was basically an admission of guilt. His choice to not wear the provided garment was deliberate. It was meant to go against the king's wishes. It showed disobedience and rebellion towards the right custom. He wanted to be there, but strictly on his own terms.
Okay, wow. So the clothing isn't literal clothing. It's the symbol. What does it symbolize for us then? Like showing up spiritually prepared or something?
Exactly. Not about suits or dresses. The sermon was super clear. The clothing is a symbol of righteousness, and it defined that as basically right living. So this man, he was physically there. He was, as the sermon put it, part of the community of God, rubbing shoulders with everyone else. But he wasn't truly part of the kingdom of God. It's like showing up for band practice, holding the instrument, but refusing to play the music the conductor chose. He was present physically, but his heart, his actions were defiant. And that difference between just being around God's people and actually belonging to his kingdom, that's huge for understanding what it means to follow Jesus. It's about that inner alignment showing up on the outside.
That distinction really hits home, especially thinking about, younger people today. We live in a world with so many surface-level connections online, everywhere. Figuring out where you genuinely belong, what real commitment even looks like, that's a massive challenge. So if everyone gets the invite, but there's this absolutely essential wedding clothes thing, the symbol of right living, how do we navigate that in our everyday lives, practically speaking?
Yeah, and that's exactly where Pastor Florin led us with the right conclusions from the text. The first one, the absolute foundation, is the kingdom is prepared and you are invited. Everyone is invited, period. That message is universal. No exceptions, no pre-qualifications. And then the sermon used John 3.16, the famous verse, to kind of flesh out what we're invited to. It's an invitation first to be loved, just fundamentally loved. It's an invitation to turn from the wrong path. That's repentance, right? Changing direction. It's also an invitation to accept a new authority over your life. God is king. That's submission, acknowledging his place. And finally, to live in harmony with his commands, obedience, following his ways, and the payoff. Pastor Florin listed them. Forgiveness, restoration, hope for the future in his presence. It's not just an invite to a party, it's an invite to a whole new reality.
Okay, so the invite is wide open, the benefits are incredible, but there's still that catch, isn't there? The sermon was clear. The invitation must be accepted on his terms. And this part really stood out. Access to the king and his banquet is only through Jesus.
Yeah.
You can't do it, so stop trying. This isn't some self-help project. You can't just muscle your way in or make your own wedding clothes.
Precisely. And this is where that whole apprenticeship idea really clicks into place. Those wedding clothes, that righteousness, that right living, it's not something we knit ourselves. It's provided by the king through Jesus.
Yeah.
Our part is first to humbly receive that gift. But then, and this is key, to actually live in a way that shows we've accepted it. That's the apprenticeship. It's learning and actively practicing that right living. It's not just nodding along intellectually. It's a hands-on, ongoing commitment. It's about responding to the invitation, not just by showing up, but by fully stepping into the king's way of life.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. This is where it gets super practical then. The sermon didn't just leave us with a concept. It gave actual steps for this apprenticeship. It's not just a nice story. It's like, here's your training manual.
Yeah.
So how do we start practicing these dance moves, as the sermon called them, for this kingdom lifestyle?
Yeah. Pastor Florin laid out some really concrete actions. First, he said, it's okay to ponder. And this isn't just, zoning out. It's active. It's focused engagement. He suggested doing it in solitude. Read the scriptures and ponder the passages that seem mysterious. Like actually making space in our crazy busy lives to wrestle with the deep stuff. But then crucially also, in community, join the Bible study groups and ponder together. The radical thing there is maybe just making space for real thought and then having the guts to bring your half-baked questions to other people instead of trying to figure it all out alone. It's like building spiritual muscle through maybe intellectual humility.
Okay, so pondering is active, not passive. Got it. Then number 2, that classic RSVP, répondez s'il vous plaît. What does that actually look like day to day, beyond just, clicking going on an event? How do we really respond?
Well, the sermon defined that RSVP as a personal decision to turn away from the wrong path, acceptance of his sovereignty, commitment to align with his harmony. That's the core practice of commitment right there. It's making that definite choice, especially when the world tells you to keep your options open, never fully commit. It's an active yes to God's terms. A conscious turn, think of it like officially signing the papers to start the apprenticeship, not just window shopping.
Right. And then the last one was get ready. So once we've pondered, we've RSVP'd, how do we keep practicing? How do we live this out? It definitely sounds like it's ongoing, not just a one-and-done decision.
Oh, absolutely. It's ongoing. The sermon pointed to baptism as one way, a powerful public way to say, okay, I've accepted the invitation. I'm in. I'm ready to learn. But then the day-to-day apprenticeship is exactly that, to learn and practice right living kingdom lifestyle. This is the daily grind, maybe. Applying what you've pondered, what you've committed to in your relationships, your work, how you spend your time, your money, everything. It's practicing the king's character in the real world. That's the roadmap for living with meaning and purpose, growing into it. It's way beyond just agreeing with ideas. It's about continuously honing those dance moves.
Wow. Okay, so we've kind of walked through this whole incredible parable from the king's just outrageously generous, open invitation to everyone, to that surprising but critical requirement of the wedding garment, that symbol of right living, of real commitment, and then down to these practical steps Pastor Florin gave us for how to actually accept and live out that invitation. It really nails that idea that this apprenticeship under Jesus isn't passive, it's active, it's a daily practice.
And it circles back to that sobering line Pastor Florin shared from the end of the parable. Many are invited, but few are chosen. Which isn't, about God being stingy with who he chooses. It's about the fact that the invitation demands a real response from us, a turn, an active, continuing commitment. It boils down to whether we're willing to accept the garment the king offers and then actually live according to the rules of his kingdom.
So if the king's already provided those wedding clothes, that right, living through Jesus, maybe the question for all of us, for you listening, is what practical dance move are you being invited to practice this week? What's one step you can take to fully step into that kingdom lifestyle, to really apprentice under him? Lots to think about there. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.